Let's start this one off with a positive, cause I don't got many of them. The Sword of Hope's an old school RPG with some bangin' music. Mostly the kinda short, catchy tracks typical for the Game Boy, but there's lots of them. Most new areas, dungeons, and even certain characters get their own themes, some with a surprising amount of chord progression and development. The overworld blasts a hopeful march reminiscent of Zelda. A somber hymn backs your visit to a church. And the kindly old man's theme feels like a lullaby. The mirror world even features a fast waltz beat. I'm a fan of those 3/4 or 6/8 meters, and there's a lot of that on here. Oh, by the way, this game's title theme is a straight rip-off of the Final Fantasy prelude. I mean, they're both simple arpeggios, so it don't mean much, I just think that's funny. This is a solid OST, bolstered by the chunky warmth of the Game Boy sound profile. Speaking of warmth, consider lighting up that like button, it really helps the channel reach more RPG fans, and subscribe for more videos like this. Unfortunately, the Sword of Hope's gameplay is rough by any measure, even for 1989. It's one of those first-person dungeon crawlers where the UI always takes up most of the screen, perfect for PC enthusiasts at the time, but barely acceptable on the Game Boy's low-res screen. Viewing the world through a tiny little box in the corner at best requires a lot of imagination, and at worst will have you realizing there's barely any art in this game. What's there is admirable for its efficient designs, and my imagination works fine, so I was able to get immersed in the world, for the first few hours anyway. See, the Sword of Hope is grindy, but worse, it too often feels unfair. Attacks, especially enemy spells, have a huge damage range. At a point where your character has around 80 HP, for example, the same spell from the same monster could deal anywhere from 20 to 50 damage, which makes a huge difference in how often you need to heal and how long your resources last before you've gotta warp back to town. While that's typical for old RPGs, the Sword of Hope's randomness makes even certain normal enemies a nightmare. On top of that, the puzzles, I hope you can hear the air quotes in my voice, get progressively more obtuse, leading me to give up halfway through and resort to a walkthrough. You can interact with up to 4 objects on any screen in multiple ways. Look at them, open them, or hit them. Sometimes hitting a random rock will open an essential new path, an idea I like in theory, but as usual with this sort of RPG, it's easy to forget to check everything, not to mention tedious when you remember to do so. Characters do hint at a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure it's all doable without a guide, but bah, this kind of adventure game style has never been my thing. At least the Sword of Hope lays out its overworld in a simple, memorable way. It's never a long walk to get anywhere, and you unlock convenient, free warp points as you go, but between checking every object 3 times and random battles every few steps, this game is the definition of grindy. It's as if the Sword of Hope has a sick awareness of its own brutality. Your navigator shows dots that represent monsters. Walk toward a dot and you're guaranteed a battle. Sometimes these spawns change whenever you take a step, but other enemies stay fixed, seemingly until you reset. I ran into one late game encounter against 3 of the most annoying enemy, druids, who were blocking a room I had to reach to progress. This battle was essentially unwinnable. Even one of these guys would be a pain, and taking on 2 was a huge gamble at my level. Druids cast crazy powerful spells and are immune to all but one of your own spells, one I hadn't even unlocked yet cause I was too low of a level. You guessed it, that meant more grinding. The game tries to mitigate the difficulty with creative features like enemy-friendly fire, where opposing monsters will occasionally target each other, but it hardly makes a difference. Ah well, that's probably on me for using a walkthrough. As usual with these more cryptic older titles, if you truly play through on your own, you won't struggle nearly as much. The trade-off, of course, being your time. The Sword of Hope attempts some interesting storytelling, and the seeds of that are there, albeit marred by a questionably curt translation. You play as the prince of a kingdom where the common people have been turned into trees thanks to a curse from the prince's own power-mad father, King Hennessy. If you've played basically any Japanese RPG, I'd bet you can guess how this one ends, but I do like a few of the touches thrown in, such as being able to talk to trees in the environment, who, again, are the townspeople. They give hints on where to go and what to do next, as well as offer morsels of world building. I stopped caring about this fairly quickly, though. There's not much in the way of customization either. You can buy a couple of armor upgrades, but they're auto-equipped and your sword automatically powers up too. This is an RPG about progression, not choice, in other words, truly all about the grind. You'll be spending your limited cash on health and magic recovery items for the most part. The question is, do you want to? The Sword of Hope doesn't offer much to look at, has few memorable moments or characters, and features obnoxious, time-wasting systems and puzzles. Even if you're into this kind of adventure-style dungeon crawler, there's surely way better options out there. If you've got any recommendations, leave them in the comments below, cause I'd love to hear them. Until the next video though, thanks for watching. Leave a like for that algorithm, subscribe for more RPG retrospectives, and have a blessed day.